Hello everyone, I am Dimple Parmar. My topic is psychological conflict in Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. This is my academic information and this is table of contents. And my research question is how do the psychological conflict of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth contribute to the thematic development of guilt, ambition, and moral deterioration? And the hypothesis is Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's psychological struggles are central to the play's narrative and thematic development. Their ambition initiates their descent into moral corruption, while guilt gradually leads to their psychological collapse. Macbeth becomes increasingly paranoid and violent, whereas Lady Macbeth, once emotionally strong, unravels under the weight of remorse. These internal conflicts drive their downfall and highlight the destructive effects of unchecked ambition and violated conscience. And introduction, Shakespeare Macbeth explores the dark psychology of ambition, guilt, and moral downfall. The play goes beyond to political tragedy to reveal the inner struggle between conscience and desire. Macbeth hesitation and Lady Macbeth suppress morality show how unchecked ambition destroys ethical balance. Through their downfall, Shakespeare exposes the universal conflict between human desire and moral responsibility. And this is a historical context written around 1606 during King James' first reign, and the themes is witchcraft and the supernatural, and political anxiety about kingship, succession, and divine right. Historical Macbeth vs. Shakespeare Macbeth. Historical Macbeth ruled Scotland briefly. Shakespeare dramatized his story to empathize moral lessons. And societal influence on psychology, fear of witches mirror external triggers for Macbeth internal conflicts. And then this is the theoretical framework. Freud's psychological theory, psychoanalytic theory, ambition is the id. Macbeth unchecked ambition reflect the id, the primal instinctual drive that seeks immediate gratification without regard for moral consequences. Conscience is the superego. The superego representing the internalized societal and moral standards manifest through Macbeth guilt and hesitation. And then Jung archetypal psychology. Lady Macbeth as a shadow. According to the Jungian theory, the shadow represents the dark, unconscious aspect of the self. Lady Macbeth embodies Macbeth repressed traits and then confronting the shadow. Macbeth's psychological conflict, ambition with conscience. Macbeth's internal conflict begin with his hesitation to murder Duncan, revealing a deep moral awareness despite his growing ambition. In Act 1, Scene 7, he weighs the consequences, both earthly and spiritual, of the murder, questioning the justifiability of killing a virtuous king. And then descent into tyranny. As Macbeth becomes king, his action grew increasingly ruthless and detached from conscience. Fear of losing power and being exposed fueled a pattern of primitive violence, notably the murder of Banquo and Musgrave of Macbeth family. Macbeth no longer questioned his morality. Instead, he operated from self-preservation and paranoia, with ambition fully overriding ethical consideration. And then Lady Macbeth's psychological conflict, manipulation and ambition. Lady Macbeth plays a crucial role in initiating Duncan's murder by manipulating Macbeth's sense of masculinity and ambition. She questioned his courage and resolved punishing him to commit an act he initially resists. In Act 1, Scene 5, she calls on dark forces to strip her feminine weakness. She said, "Come on, spirits that tend on moral thought, unsex me here." This line reveals her desire to suppress conscience, compassion, and moral hesitation in order to pursue power at any cost. Second is guilt and manifestation. Despite her strong and composed exterior early in the play, Lady Macbeth cannot fully repress her guilt. In Act 5, Scene 1, she begins sleepwalking and obsessive rubbing her hands, wishing she cannot remove Duncan blood. Out, damn spot out, I say. This is quote. And then comparative analysis, psychological trajectories. Macbeth's trajectory begins with a strong moral awareness, but as he commits regicide, he becomes morally desensitized, gradually losing empathy and restraint. And then gendered psychological response. The character reaction to guilt reflect the gender psychological patterns, typical literary cultural interpretation. Men represented by Macbeth tend to rationalize their crimes, detach emotionally, and express guilt through outward action like violence and paranoia. And then key scenes analysis. Act 1, Scene 5. She said, "Unsex me here." Lady Macbeth calls on supernatural forces to unsex her, rejecting traditional feminine qualities like compassion and morality. and psychological implication. And then Act 2, Scene 2, Duncan murder. This scene captured the immediate psychological aftermath of regicide. Macbeth is overwhelmed by, we all great Neptune ocean wash this blood clean from my hand. And then psychological and moral interpretation. Both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are shaped by hamartia or tragic flaws which ultimately lead to their downfalls. For Macbeth, his flaw is valuing ambition, a desire for power so overwhelming that it overrides for moral judgment and reason. A central conflict throughout the play is the struggle between conscience and ambition. This internal battle creates intense psychological tension, particularly visible in Macbeth's soliloquies and Lady Macbeth's later breakdown. Film adaptation and visual representation. Film adaptation of Macbeth vividly expressed the play's psychological themes through visual storytelling. Polanski's adaptation emphasized hallucination and graphic violence, using dark, unsettling imagery to reflect Macbeth's descent into guilt and madness. Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, set in a feudal Japan, preserves the core psychological tension of the original. Through minimal dialogue, foggy landscape, and a chillingly calm wife figure, the film explores ambition and manipulation in a culturally distinct but emotionally similar way. And this is the critical interpretations. Munro, Lady Macbeth's psychological decline is central to understanding the tragedy. Her descent into guilt induced the madness reflect this play's exploration of conscience and the destructive power of unchecked ambition. Carr, the interdependent psychological conflict between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth illustrate their moral and ethical deterioration. The relationship, once marked by unity, becomes fractured as guilt isolated them, revealing how internal corruption manifests in outward disintegration. And this is the conclusion. In Macbeth, Shakespeare shows how ambition and guilt lead to moral and psychological destruction. Macbeth rise and fall, along with Lady Macbeth madness, reveals the tragic cost of violating conscience. The play remains a timeless study of human weakness and the destructive power of unchecked desire. So this is my side. If you have any question, please ask.
So, Dimple, my question is, what moral lesson does Shakespeare convey through great psychological conflict?
Shakespeare shows that unchecked ambition and moral corruption also destroy our inner peace and also lose our harmony.
So, Dimple, what does Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking skin reveal?
Lady Macbeth actions, washing imaginary blood from her hands, she said, out damn spot also show her guilt, remorse, and psychological disintegration. Thank you.